Anyway, I hope everyone had a good New Year. Well, obviously I did, considering the fact that my Ohio State Buckeyes beat the Clemson Tigers for the first time in 5 games. Not to go on about that and everything else, them going to the national championship against Alabama. But considering everything that's happened the last 72 hours since New Year's, especially about the phone call, and most importantly, especially what's going on January 6th, I had to talk about this. Again, I have to allay everyone's fears about what's going to happen on January 6th. And to do that, I'm going to read you an article from the Washington Post. For a while, it appeared as though Trump might have had a hard time finding a senator who would join when Congress received the Electoral College votes on January 6th, as procedures demand to force a debate on whether some of those votes may have been rejected. But Trump had recruited newly elected Tommy Tuberville, Republican of Alabama, but Tubbs hadn't committed to play the part. But now Trump doesn't really need him, even though he's joined in. But Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri, he positively incensed with ambition for 2024, has announced that he'll bravely raise his hand and cry in the words of elementary school playgrounds everywhere, "No fair." This is a fitting end to the 2020 election. Pointless, insecure, performative outrage. Promising the election the eternal advocated GOP base of victory Trump can't deliver. Contemptuous of the majority of Americans and propped up by Republicans whose opinions of their own voters could barely be lower. When future students stroll through the virtual reality presentation on the Trump presidency, there will be another of those standout moments to add to the horror of Charlottesville, the shame of Helsinki, the vulgar consumption of "do us a favor," and the shocking negligence of "one day, like a miracle, it's going to disappear." This, they'll learn, was how the final door was shut on Trump's attempt to steal the 2020 election. To be perfectly clear, Hawley is perfectly within his procedural rights. If one senator and one member of Congress object to states' electoral votes, there is a debate for a couple of hours, and both houses could vote to reject those electoral votes, which they won't do. For Hawley, the doom fight is the point, not the outcome. "Someone has to stand up here," he says in an appearance on Fox News. You got 74 million Americans who feel disenfranchised, who feel their vote doesn't matter. But this isn't the disenfranchisement. It's called losing. The votes of Trump supporters mattered. It's just the fact there were fewer than votes for Joe Biden. That's what happens in an election. One side loses, and if it was your side, it doesn't mean you get cheated. It means you just simply lost. But those votes deserve to be heard, says Hawley, as though the problem that they had an insufficient opportunity to air their deranged conspiracy theories. Never have a group of people so ear-splitting loud spent so long complaining that they're being silenced. No one seriously denies that the Republican base has utterly lost its mind. The only question is how shamelessly GOP politicians will pander to that lunacy. For Hawley, the limit has not been reached. But once in a while, someone admits the truth. Senator Ben Sasse, Republican of Nebraska, wrote on Facebook, and I posted this on my page as well, that when we talk in private, I haven't heard a single congressional Republican allege that the election results were fraudulent. Not one. Instead, I hear them talk about their worries about how they'll look to President Trump's most adamant supporters. And of course, there's Donald Trump himself. CNN reported that the president seems to hold out hope that the ceremony on January 6th, the entire election might be overturned and handed to him. In particular, he learns for one last act of lipstickery from the vice president, who acts as a kind of master of ceremonies for the receiving of the electoral votes. But still, Trump still has faith in the power of chaos to give him what he wants. On Wednesday, he tweeted in all caps, "January 6th, see you in D.C." to encourage his supporters to descend to the city for a protest, perhaps hoping that his good friends in the Proud Boys will once again rampage through the streets of the capital, starting fights and destroying property at black churches. Yet for all that, there's a silver lining to be found in the final act of this election. The point of rituals, like the one that will take place at the Capitol on January 6th, is to demonstrate the power of the system under which we live. To show that is larger than any one person or any one party. That is the wall against which Trump will beat his tiny little fists on this Wednesday. And with the help of Huawei, especially guys like Ted Cruz, and a few members of the House Chucklehead Caucus, for all the damage he and they have done to American institutions and and all the systemic weaknesses that he has revealed, there is one place Trump will fail spectacularly. The ceremony will be the site of not of his deliverance, but his abject defeat. So bring it on, Trump. Bring on Huawei. Bring on Cruz. Take your spectacle of sore loserdom to the floor. Show us how pathetic you are one more time. We'll all watch while you make your last attempt to bend the system to your crude and selfish will. At a time of such misery and despair, the sound of that gavel banging down will give us something to feel good about. The fact of the matter is, nothing's going to happen. A few senators are going to scream their heads off, but after that phone call to the Georgia state officials, his case is dead. Frankly, if I were Ted Cruz and the rest of those shrubs in the Senate and Congress who are trying to overturn this election, I would grab Donald Trump by the throat and say, "What the hell are you doing? We're out there trying to save your political career for you to stay in the White House, and you're making us look like jackasses." But they won't do it because they think they have a case, which they don't. Donald Trump, his job is over. Donald Trump, your job is going to be over on January 6th, unless you decide to resign, which is what you should be doing, to resign. So everyone stop worrying. And if you're worried about the terrorists and everyone else coming to Washington, D.C. at Donald Trump's expense, as his invitation to start something, don't worry. But I will say this, don't counter-protest either. As much as I love a counter-protest as much as anyone. But considering what's happening out there, and I'm not even talking about the coronavirus pandemic. I'm talking about basic common sense. These idiots want to get themselves hurt because of Donald Trump. That's on them. Don't let it be on you. Be smarter than they are. Actually, you are smarter than they are, considering the fact that a lot of you voted for Biden this year. Anyway, this is CTP. Know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left. Justice to the right.